and support. And I'm excited to spearhead this committee with you today. But I just want to say I in no means am a land use expert as well. I'm not a zoning expert, but I think that's my value add here. I can help clarify certain things for everybody. And I really believe in the type of leadership where all voices are heard and everyone rises together. So here, every one of the committee members here are either already or will be experts of zoning together. So everyone will have a share of the pie for that kind of committee. So I believe in everyone contributing just that much. So with that, let's get started. As a reminder, MCB4 has a hybrid policy that can be found on our website. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability and or an extraordinary circumstance. Excused members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. Thank you, Dolores. This meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel, and a transcript is being recorded. All right, so today we have a presentation and
continue introductions.
yes, I was gonna say the topic first. I got you. Oh, should we do that first? Okay, so we're gonna go around the room and introduce ourselves. So Rachel Lee, Paul Devlin,
Sanford Miller,
Kevin Collins, George Tuchin,
Aaron Hoffman,
Brian Weber, public member, James McDonald,
Ted Arenas, Brian Paul Zubiak.
and do we do the committee members online?
Dolores Rubin.
Thank you, Dolores. And then we'll go around the room. Maybe we start from there.
Jason Diaz, for CFP, the environmental consultants.
Geology Curry, let's go the argument.
William Friedland Properties, one of the applicants.
Patrick Milner, the chairman group, also one of the applicants.
David West Architects.
Robert Avery, Hudson Park Trust.
Toby Giacini, Casir, supporting the applicant team. Catherine McGrath, Casir. Mariah Feldstein, Clinton Housing, not an applicant.
I'm Theo Press from SEIU Local 32BJ, also not an applicant.
Aaron Cotton, Food Franks for the applicant.
Wesley O'Brien, Free Frank, Land Use Council to the applicants.
Great.
Okay, so one item, it's our first ULURP of 2026, which is awesome. And it also incorporates a draft EIS, which we will have to comment on as well. As people know, the ULURP process requires public hearings and formal votes and tracking of votes. So we'll go through that process at both community board. The applicant has certified this application on December 15th, which was 5 days after our last month's meeting. We usually request 2 months timeline for us to review things. But they missed the Hell's Kitchen land use meeting in December, so we are on a very tight schedule. Technically, we're going to have to get this approved at full board on February 4th. So that's only 3 weeks from now. So all the work that we're going to talk about having to do, we have to get done in a very expedited and fast process. In the past, they have to file everything by February 23rd. That happens to be the night of our executive committee meeting for the board. So if there are alterations and commitment letters and agreements that build between now and that date, we might be able to get the executive committee to approve something slightly different than what this committee approves to get to full board for approval. So I wanted to point out that the timetable is much more crunched than usual. So let's be prepared for a fast pace and a fast workload. This is the proposal north of DeWitt Clinton Park. It says both a ULURP and a draft EIS. The scope we did back in February of 2025. So those of you who were on the committee back then may remember the scope and the series of questions we asked to be studied in the draft EIS. We'll be going through that as well tonight. But let's start with the presentation from the applicants and then we'll take it from there. Sure.
Presentation, please. Great, so to get started, as you heard, we are here to discuss proposed rezonings of 2 sites and special permits to allow for the purchase of unused development rights from Hudson River Park and to facilitate the development of 2 mixed-use buildings north of DeWitt Clinton Park. Next slide, please. The sites are outlined in red here, located between West 54th Street and West 56th Street. between 11th and 12th Avenues. There are two separate applications, separate applicants here. The applications were however prepared by the same consultants, and they were analyzed in one EIS, so we're presenting them together for you tonight. The 12th Street site rather, the 12th Avenue site to the west at 629 West 54th Street is owned by an affiliate of Freeland Properties. And the 11th Avenue site to the east at 801 11th Avenue is owned by an affiliate of the Chapman. Next slide, please. We have the existing zoning map. So the 12th Avenue site is located in an M24 district in sub-area C2 of the Special Clinton District. The 11th Avenue site is located in M23 district in sub-area C1 of the Special Clinton District. While both of these sites were identified as sites for very high density zoning and Community Board Force 2025 Affordable Housing Plan, we're seeking to rezone them to C47, which is the sites within the special Hudson River Park District. The C47 district allows for a base FAR of 12.0, which includes, it's subject to mandatory inclusionary housing, so that's with the qualifying affordable housing, it's 12.0. And then through the transfer of unused development rights from Hudson River Park, we can qualify for up to a 20% bonus. So that's an additional 2.4, which would bring the sites to 14.4. Next slide, please. So taking a closer look at each of the sites, starting with the 12th Avenue site. The images here, particularly images 2 and 3, provides views of the sites looking east across 12th Avenue. The 12th Avenue site is currently occupied by a 6-story building, which includes an auto showroom and service center. Next slide, please. And here we have a site plan of the 12th Avenue building. We're proposing a 44-story mixed-use building. The 3-story base will include 84,349 square feet of commercial auto showroom use. And the portions above will include 421,000 square feet of residential use. This will produce approximately 617 units, of which 154 would be affordable. I'll hand it over to Dave West to describe the design more in detail.
Sure. So the site plan generally, we have a 3-story commercial podium underneath a residential development. There are street walls on either side. This one is 12 stories. This one on 55th Street, just slightly higher, 13th tower sits here. It reaches a maximum height of 44 stories. The tower is oriented north-south to minimize solar heat gain as well as present its narrow face to the park. It's also positioned as far east as possible to maximize separation from the Hudson River and its park. A 3-story podium fronts on 12th Avenue and wraps around West 54th and West 55th Streets, replicating the existing street wall condition, which is currently defined by a 2 to 3-story commercial building that sits along the 12th Avenue frontage. Go to the next slide. The ground floor consists of both commercial and residential uses, with commercial entrances along the 12th Avenue frontage and the western portion of the West 54th Street frontage. The residential entrance is going to be located on West 54th Street, across from DeWitt Clinton Park. This creates a visual relationship with the park and will serve to activate West 54th Street, which is an important pedestrian corridor. Next slide. This shows you a stacking plan. Here you can see we have a full 3-story commercial podium underneath the residential floors. As I said, the street walls rise to 12 stories on 54th Street, 13 stories on 55th Street. The overall height of the building is 44 stories, 550 feet plus bulkhead, 590 feet total. The street wall heights are designed to step down towards 12th Avenue, maximizing sun from the west. On the next slide. Next slide. Okay. So here you can see it better. So there's a kind of a step in the street wall. You see we're picking up the character of the existing buildings there, but we're not trying to be exactly the same. Instead, we're stepping down. towards the avenue. We think that's a nice move architecturally, and it kind of completes this curve that comes in here. We think focused on the car. See that? So there's a rhythm there. We put a slightly taller street wall on 55th Street just because we think that's slightly less impactful place for that. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, here you see the rendering. So we created this little inset between the residential portion and the commercial portion. We did that to emphasize the commercial portion to create a little separation. But we did want to bring the character of the residential podium down to the street. It creates two interlocking volumes that allow the tower to visually come to the ground. We have a symmetrical tower massing, which is reinforced by a change of fenestration at the center of the tower that extends up through the bulkhead. Next slide. The massing is further articulated through material differentiation. You're using earth tone materials at the base to define the residential portion and to integrate it with the surrounding context. Whereas the tower is somewhat cooler and glassier. And then the commercial portion has large storefront windows, giving it a strong commercial aesthetic. That is very clear at street level. And I think I turn it back to Leslie.
Sure, next slide, please. So then turning to the 11th Avenue site, we have site photos here. You'll recognize particular images 2, 3, and 4, which are looking east to the site across 11th Avenue. The 11th Avenue site is currently improved with 2 vacant buildings, which runs up to 50 feet tall. They were previously operated as a single auto showroom, but that site is now vacant. Next slide, please. So the site plan for the 11th Avenue building, we're proposing a 38-story mixed-use building. It will have 64,000 square feet of commercial auto showroom use, again, in a 3-story base. And then we will have 386,000 square feet of residential use in the tower portion above that. This will provide approximately 477 new residential units, of which 25% or 119 will be affiliated. Again, I pass back to David.
Okay, thank you. All right, similar to the 54th Street building, we're proposing the north-south orientation to our tower. This is the tower portion. This of course helps reduce solar heat gain and also in this case reinforces the axis formed by the avenue. We have a 7-story podium that is here and here, steps down a little here and opens down to the street and the corner. Which will help bring it into the context with the urban streetscape. Next slide. Ground floor will contain commercial and residential use. Commercial entrance is located mid-block along 11th Avenue. Adjacent to or across the street from other commercial entrances in the area. The residential entrance is located right at the corner of 11th Avenue and 55th Street, which we think is the most strategic position for it in this location. And we, as I said, created a little entrance recess area there to get it off the avenue, but keep it strategically away from other aspects of West 55th Street. And it's located far away from the entertainment venue that we have on West 56th Street. Next slide. Like the other building, we have a 3-story commercial component in the base. As Wesley mentioned, we have a residential street wall that rises 7 stories. And then an overall height of 38 stories, 485 feet plus bulkhead. Next. In an effort to provide some distinction between the two buildings, we've articulated this one differently by creating an offset in the tower, so there are essentially two interlocked vertical elements of the tower. We further reinforce that with the facade treatment, which you can see on the next slide. Right, so somewhat different facade treatments between those two components, and the bulkhead is interlocked with one of the two vertical portions, giving a strong form, I think. I think, go one more slide, it's the better rendering. Yeah, so look, we made a real effort here to set the street wall and create some variation in it, so we think it works well with the context, and at the same time, it isn't static and boring. There's some visual relief. This carve out at the corner creates a visual relief that we think is very important and allows us to bring the residential character of the tower down to the street in a discreet way that still allows the commercial portion to kind of stand alone and be important on the street. We'll have also substantial storefront windows at the ground floor to accentuate the commercial. And we're using warmer tone materials and somewhat reduced fenestration above, transition to above to transition the building scale and character into the more residential character above. As you move along 11th Avenue, the podium steps down, first to 3 stories and then to grade. And I guess that's it. I know you've all seen this, so. Enough.
Well, before we move on to the zoning actions, while we're here, if you could jump ahead to slide 29. We have a little bit more on this. I know that there have been comments given to us. Access area at the corner. There was concern, I guess, in this district. There have been issues with unhoused people taking over these types of areas. So. And so I'm showing the same view again, as David said, we think it's the same.
Oh, okay.
We think it. There's a more.
Thanks for saying.
It looks the same.
No, we think it's important architecturally and provides good articulation. If you move to the next slide, please. And so I've highlighted the area here that's shown. We were asked to take a look at this to try to do something about it, to study further. Next slide, please. So in response, we had proposed putting planters on that area. We were told to take a closer look at it, see if we had any other solutions. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So what we wanted to show you tonight was our alternative proposal. Again, we very much would like to have some articulation at that corner, but we've significantly reduced it. So what was once would have been 66 feet along 11th Avenue has now been reduced to 30 feet. And then what was previously 40 feet along West 55th Street would now be 20 feet, and we were proposing the plan. So this is just one thing that we're putting out there for your consideration. Folks would like your thoughts on this alternative. So then if we go back to slide 19, we'll talk a little bit about the proposed actions. So the zoning actions for these two applications are essentially the same. There are three zoning actions that they are each seeking. I'll note a few differences between the two. Both sites are seeking zoning map amendments to zone sites from manufacturing M2 districts to C47 districts, which would allow for commercial as well as, of course, the residential uses that are in line with the surrounding community. We're also proposing to map each of the sites within the Special Hudson River Park District, which allows for the transfer of ground rights to these sites. The second set of actions are the zoning text amendments. We're proposing to define both the granting site within Hudson River Park and these two receiving sites with the transfer of floor area. As part of the text amendments, we would also designate each of these sites for mandatory inclusionary housing. Thirdly, the text would allow for auto repair use in conjunction with the auto showroom use. That is not otherwise allowed in C64. It's allowed today in the manufacturing district, so allow for the continuation of the auto repair uses. And then finally, it would provide for certain modifications of floor area regulations in connection with these soil permits. The special permits themselves are pursuant to 89, zoning resolution section 8921. So at the 12th Avenue site, special permit would allow for 84,000 square feet of development rights to be transferred from Hudson River Park to the site. And then it would also allow for bulk modifications, which would modify the minimum base height, the maximum base height, and the minimum setback along at that site. And then the 11th Avenue site, the special permit would allow for the transfer of 64,000 square feet from Hudson River Park and the modification of the street wall location requirements to allow for the notch at the corner that we were showing here. I do also have waiver diagrams in the appendix if you'd like to go into these in more detail. Next slide, please.
You have to show us the waiver diagram at some point.
I'm happy to go record to that. Actually, let's jump ahead if you would to the waiver diagrams at the end while we are on that, slide 33, please. So this is the 12th Avenue site. There are 3 waivers that we are seeking here. First, the setback from West 54th Street, because West 54th is a narrow street, is a requirement for a 15-foot setback. Wide streets allow for a 10-foot setback, which is what we are proposing here. Also, in areas where you are adjacent to a park, you're allowed to treat it as a wide street. Adjacent meaning this way, not this way, so that we think that there's sufficient light and air to the side, and that this has no impact on the park. And it also allows for the bulk of the building to be distributed a little bit lower. On the West 55th Street side of the park, the maximum base height is 155 feet. So we're proposing just a slight increase to 177 feet. That's the DOT garage on that side, so it has a lot of accent surfaces. And then finally, on the 12th Avenue side, there's a minimum 60-foot street wall that's required. Under our primary proposal, what we're anticipating to do with a 3-story base, we would meet that. However, if we are not able to find the commercial tenant to take all 3 of the floors, there's a possibility that we would instead do 2 floors of, so we say there's 1 floor of commercial at the base with additional 2 floors of residential. In that instance, we would pull the residential back and not put it right there on the avenue, in which case we would not meet the minimum street wall requirement, minimum base height requirement, so it would drop to 1 feet of elevation. Next slide, please. Yes, you can see it cut through here. So this is on the north side of the building, just a small increase there, and there's a 5-foot on the south side of the building. Next slide, please. And then at 12th Avenue site, there's a requirement to.
You left that.
Sorry, thanks. 11th Avenue site is a requirement to maintain the street wall along 11th Avenue. And as we discussed, to have the setback at the corner and the residential entrance, we would propose a setback of 10 feet. So those are the zone waivers.
And nothing on the base there?
Nothing else. That is the only waiver we're seeking for that study. Okay, so then back to slide 20, if you could please. So slide 20 identifies the granting sites within Hudson River Park. There are 3 sites that have been identified, starting at the south, the Chelsea Piers, which are already granting sites under the program that we're somewhat modifying the boundaries. The Circle Line Piers at Piers 81 and 83, and then finally the Connex Pier at Pier 98. The total transfer of floor area from these sites, from these 3 sites, or in among these 3 sites to the 2 development sites would be 148,000 square feet of floor area. So the sale of which will provide to Hudson River Park Trust not less than $29.7 million. And Hudson River Park Trust plans to allocate 80% of that to construction of new pile supported pier and related improvements at Pier 76, as well as the waterfront Esplanade connection in front of Pier 76.
So it's approximately 188,000 square feet for the transfer. Is that the number I heard? I'll try to get it.
The total transfer is 148,000.
148
for that.
And the per square foot has been agreed to yet, or is that's still part of
There
the
is a
discussion?
minimum that
Minimum.
has been agreed to, so there's a floor of 200 per square foot, so that's what produces the 29.7 million. So it would be not less than that, but it's subject to an appraiser.
At the point in time of the actual transaction.
Correct, in which case it could increase.
Well,
Hold the Q and A in a second.
Yes.
I'm just trying to quantify.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
148,793 square feet with 29.7 million.
As I said, 80% would be spent on the, anticipated to be spent on the construction around Pier 76. 20% of the funds would be reserved for capital maintenance with important part in community board for. Next slide, please. So as we mentioned earlier, a draft EIS has been published for this site. All the technical areas that you see here were studied in the draft EIS. So in order to ensure that it was a thorough analysis that covered all the potential impacts that could result from the project, we actually studied two different scenarios. One, if you look at the EIS, is referred to as the maximum commercial scenario. So that looks a lot like our proposal, but an auto showroom is not very intense use. So in the EIS, we've substituted it out and studied retail on the ground floor and office uses above. So for areas where office users would generate more traffic and pedestrians, we've studied that so that we get the most intense profile. Conversely, we studied a scenario where a maximum residential scenario. So if we have only one floor of commercial and the rest is residential, we're using that in instances where residential tenants are actually produce more impacts. So that's school impacts, childcare impacts. So if you look in the EIS, we're sort of toggling between these two to make sure that we are capturing the worst case. Doesn't change our proposal, but it just captures the whole range. So based on the studies we did, there is the potential for significant adverse environmental impacts, which were identified in two areas, namely transportation and in construction. Next slide, please. And so I'll just sort of quickly go through here. So in the transportation analysis, there were traffic impacts identified at one intersection, that's 55th and 12th Avenue. Shown here in yellow. That impact is fully mitigatable through the signal timing adjustments. Next slide, please. There were impacts identified for bus line haul, namely the M12 bus, which is the line shown in blue, and the M57 bus line, which is shown in yellow. These are fully mitigatable impacts by adding two buses to the M57 route during the AM peak period and one to the M12 in the PM peak period. Next slide, please. Okay, so those were our operational phase transportation impacts. This moves on to the construction phase impacts. We have construction traffic impacts, which are identified at 2 intersections shown in yellow. Next slide, please. And then say the ones in yellow were during the morning peak period, and then we had 5 in the afternoon peak period. Most of these are fully mitigatable through signal timing adjustments, except that 2 were not. At the intersections of 55th and 12th Avenue, and the intersection of 56th and 11th Avenue. They are temporary, they're construction phase impacts, but they would remain unmitigatable at that time. And then finally, next slide, please. There were construction noise impacts. The slide will show you all of the locations that were studied for the potential impacts. That's all of the blue dots, so it's quite a thorough study. Significant impacts were only identified at the one commercial building, so the facade shown in red, which is 619 West 54th Street, and that impact can be partially mitigated through use of noise shields and the implementation of other noise reduction measures, which the applicants are leading to. Next slide. So then to conclude, we were requesting the rezoning of these two sites, and that have been identified by the community board for very high density zonings. Doing so would facilitate the construction of approximately 1,094 residential units, 273 of which would be permanently affordable pursuant to the mandatory inclusionary housing program. The purchase of unused development rights from the Hudson River Park Trust would be for not less than $29 million, which we apply to approve improvements in Community Board 4. So in this, we ask for your support and are happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. Just to remind everybody about process, what we'll do is start with committee members to ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something in the presentation, ask a question to get the clarification. Then we'll go to public for commentary from the public, then we'll come back to committee for the committee to express opinions and thoughts about strategy moving forward. So, Joe, I'm gonna start at this end this time. From questions about anything in that presentation that's unclear that you want to have some clarity on. James.
It's 21% about affordable housing. What was it, the number?
25.
25. So my action option 1, so that's more permission.
Just how many units total between the two projects?
1,094.
Right, so it's a considerable population over on 12th Avenue. A lot of the buildings that are on 12th Avenue have shuttles to transport people to major hubs now, such as 42nd Street. Or is there anticipation that that will be a part of this project? Or
We are not proposing shuttles and the council member has favor shuttles, so we're not.
I appreciate that they don't favor shuttles. I'm just noting for the amount of residents that you're putting over there, that's a hike. That's all. I'll just clarify that.
JD?
Yeah, just quick things. 54th Street is where the residential entrance is going to be. Is that correct? Correct. But, and you said there's no impact. But that's sort of a artery off the west side of the highway, right? So how can it be? So you're saying there's gonna be no problem? Cars are not gonna pull up, taxis?
We've studied both pedestrians and residents, and there was an impact, a transportation phase impact at that intersection.
At 54.
That
You
is-
said 52.
Yes, you're correct, sorry. So yes, that intersection actually did not have an impact.
Okay, well, I'm just raising it. Secondly, I misheard. Did you say something 20% of the transfer of Hudson River Park is gonna go to parks in District 4?
20% would be reserved for capital maintenance. Yes, and Hudson River Park.
Only Hudson River Park.
The Hudson River Park port, sorry, the Hudson River Park portion.
Thanks.
So just to follow up on that clarification, not other parts of the community board, just not other parts of Hell's Kitchen, just the Hudson River Park.
That's correct. That's we are purchasing the development rights from Hudson River Park. All funds go to Hudson River Park, so I was referring to the split.
And it stays within the Hell's Kitchen portion of Hudson River Park.
Community board for.
Community board for a portion. Because I know that one of the transfer sites is not in our district, so.
Right.
Okay.
Right, follow.
No, all of the transfer
All three are, I thought most other ones.
They're not just kitchens.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the apples and oranges. The question not is about, of course, we're gonna stay committee board full, but I got that,
Doris, I see her.
right, but. I think we're gonna make a request that the funds stay in Hell's Kitchen, because we're getting the bulk and the burden.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, that's why I wanted that clarification made. Aaron?
You articulated some differences between if the building is max commercial or max residential, and I know you talked about how if you don't get a tenant for the commercial, you'll move to max residential, but are there other factors that might be taken into consideration in determining which of those directions you go?
It's a matter of making sure that we. At the 12th Avenue site, we currently have a tenant. We would like to continue with that tenant, but we have to come to an agreement with them. So if there's an agreement, they want all 3 floors, we would build it to all 3 floors. But the anticipation for both sites is based on surrounding uses that they would likely be auto showroom and the other showroom uses.
with a repair component,
Sorry?
with a repair component.
Yes.
With the repair.
That's the repair component is the zoning text that we asked for that allows the union jobs to stay at these locations. Congratulations, clarification.
Joey, no questions.
No, I have only
Joe,
clarification.
you're gonna pass.
I have only clarification questions first. So the first one is, you said you solved the problem with the 1057 buses by adding 2 buses. Who pays for that?
MTA to add the buses.
They would be required to do it?
No, it is. MTA adds the buses based on demand and financial availability.
No, I understand, but if there's an impact and there's no funds from TA to provide the buses, who pays for the buses? Because the impact is not resolved.
Understood. It would remain unmitigated dependencies.
So if you can just close that, make that very clear, that'd be helpful in the process. You did not note the shadow impacts that were in the EIS on historic resources on West 57th Street that are not mitigated.
There are not unmitigated shadow impacts.
They're mitigated shadow impacts? Your document says they're
They
shadow
were
impacts.
not, there were shadow effects, but there were no significant adverse shadow.
Oh, there were shadow effects, but not an impact.
Correct. There were no significant adverse shadow impacts.
Right, so my friends over here can know that that's like a fine line to go through, right? So there are, the EIS does say there will be shadows on historic resources on the churches on the 7th Street. Just note that for ourselves, understand what they're lost. I have a very odd question for you. In the document we have on the draft scope, there's all sorts of crossouts and changes. I've never seen that before.
The final scope of work, between the draft scope of work and the final scope of work, we show what has changed through the process. So that should be the final scope of work we're referring to.
Okay, so therefore, you made a choice to then increase the height of the buildings. Because that's what shows in these changes. That's a little bit of a surprise.
There was a slight increase in the height of the building. City planning pushed us to eliminate some of the waivers. And so that pushed up the building height a little bit from before the scope of work.
So when we get to the design questions, we can talk about that, because that's exactly the opposite of what we spent months talking to you about.
Sure.
Okay, those are my clarification.
Thank you for your presentation. Just got a couple of questions. Have you sought and received any feedback from block association, community groups, businesses? There's the Hudson River folks there. There's a work group working on the West Side Highway. Have you sought interacting with them? Yeah, and what feedback have you received from those folks?
We are frankly here today looking forward to receiving feedback from the community. There's been some outreach, but I think this is really the forum that we're seeking that impact and input.
Gotcha, thanks. And if a recommendation from this group was to have more increased percentage of affordable housing, what decision would you take on that?
It is. We are eager to build the projects, but it is difficult to finance them as they are. So we are planning to do it pursuant to the MIH program. So as it is at that level.
Gotcha. When
I guess there really isn't an answer to the question though, right?
Yes.
So it's just no.
I got this.
I was explicit for the public attending.
Okay,
When we did,
so can I do a follow-up with that?
please.
So in terms of the MIH, there are different alternatives. Why did you choose the 25% alternative versus the others? So you help us understand that process too.
Yeah, it is our preferred program that we think it make the building financeable more easily. That being said, both options are in the application. So we put both option 1 and 2 out there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Sorry, couldn't think.
Thank you. When we wrote a response to the draft scope of work, I think back in February of 25, one of the things we asked to take a look at was the impact potentially of hazardous materials, especially in general, but also in proximity to the park where families and children are going to. If I read the materials correctly, am I right that part of that analysis couldn't be done because you were denied access to site 1?
That's correct. So part of the analysis. So we have undertaken an hazardous materials study. There was a phase 1 study done at both sites. At the 12th, so let's start with the 11th Avenue site. The 11th Avenue site, we did the phase 1 investigations. They did the in-ground testing there. There were some concerns as the community board raised with respect to the auto uses that have been on site. So there's a requirement to do remediation at the time of development and to do implement the remedial action plan and construction health and safety plan. So that will be imposed on that site. At the 12th Avenue site, we did the phase 1 investigations, which also, as you all expected, showed there's a potential for hazardous materials contamination from the auto showroom, or really auto dealership uses that have been there, auto repair uses. At that site, there's an E designation that will be placed to ensure that at the time of construction, there will be phase 2 testing, so in-ground soil sampling and the proper remediation will be done. So that will be required through the Office of Environmental Remediation.
Thank you. I'll just close by saying, this is like an interrelation between this committee and Triple HS. But in reading through the response of the EIS, this study's not required, this study's not required, this is not triggered, this is not triggered. While that may be technically true for this individual project, the cumulative impact, which is good, problem to have, having more people come in, more affordable housing. We just need to consider it, as we've asked for the CB4, a study of the cumulative impact of all the projects coming in here, whether it's on schools, whether it's on healthcare, whether it's on transportation. So once again, we're saying individually, this may not trigger it, but cumulatively, this side here, this side here, this side here, all this area will. So I just close with that comment. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No questions from me.
All right. Richard. Dolores,
My question was already answered. Thank you.
thank you.
One more.
Of course.
Can you say a little bit about the type of units, the residential units in terms of size? Are we talking studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, you know?
The unit mix has not been determined yet.
Thank you.
One question I have is on the traffic impact is on 55th and 12th Avenue. And we're looking at a redevelopment of the marine terminal across the Hudson. Did you take into consideration any of the future developments on the Hudson River, notably the new cruise line terminals?
We did take into consideration anything that would be online during this building. You have to check.
Yeah, that's correct. So anything that was anticipated to be completed by the completion of our project, we spend in our transportation studies, the rest of it. Anything that would be completed beyond our village area is not.
What is your build year is what, 2029?
Is
That's
there
correct.
open?
Yeah, that's correct.
So I would think the answer to that question is no.
Right.
We can confirm that.
Yeah. The marine. Okay, that clarifies that. Let me open up to anybody in the public wish to have any questions, comments, opinions shared. If you're online, if you could raise your hand electronically, that would be helpful so we could identify you. And Janine, if anybody in the attendees list, can you just move them over for us? And I see a hand in the room.
Yes, hello, thank you. Good evening, Community Board 4. My name is Theo Perez. I'm here today on behalf of Bessie Knight, Local 32BJ. 32BJ is the largest union of property service workers in the country. We represent over 175,000 members across 13 states, including tens of thousands of commercial property service workers, security officers, and residential building staff in New York City and in Manhattan. 32BJ supports responsible developers who invest in the communities where they build. And I'm happy to report that the developers behind these proposed projects, Freeland Properties and Chapman Group, have made a credible commitment to creating good jobs for the workers who will permanently staff these buildings. Good jobs like these mean prevailing wages, meaningful benefits, and a pathway to the middle class for local community members who tend to fill such positions. We estimate that these 2 projects will create somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 permanent building service jobs. Moreover, we need more housing to be built in every neighborhood of New York City to ensure that working families are not displaced by dwindling supply and skyrocketing rents. Proposed developments will include roughly 1,000 residential units, hundreds of which will be permanently income restricted for low to middle income New Yorkers. As the cost of living rises and working New Yorkers struggle to stay in their homes, it is more important now than ever to create both affordable housing and good jobs which uphold industry standards in the city. For these reasons, 32BJ is in strong support for both the 801 11th Avenue and 629 West 54th Street projects. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. It's great to know it's one commitment, we're not to secure. We did also receive, in the community board office, and they'll probably be loaded up to Dropbox, is the, New York Building Congress also sent a letter in support of that. That should be in your Dropbox. Okay. Nobody else from the public, I don't see anybody hand raised.
Yeah, I'm not seeing, oh, there's one hand up, from
Deborah.
Deborah.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. Okay.
This is Deborah Forrest, and I live on West 57th Street. one of my questions is for the affordable housing, are we providing for the people that helped us get through COVID, you know, the people that worked in the neighborhood, kept the neighborhood going? Are we providing for our senior citizens, or is this like gentrification? This is not affordable. This is, you know, I just think our COVID workers deserve more than when we bang the pots for them. And on another note, I bring it up under this building land use because we're oversaturated right now with a lot of people that don't have any help. And on 57th Street, we have the pretty much vacant Henry Hudson Hotel and the Windmere and the Justino's Pizza moved out, and it's become an area of where there is a lot of rage and there's assaults. And my question is, and I wrote this to you, I was asking for some immediate safety and lighting under the Henry Hudson shed. And I wanted to see if there was any way the city could provide us with more foot patrols. And also there is a cure for harassment at the Henry Hudson. And I hope that that's not going to be used to stop work from moving forward and keep this another vacant space for another year or two.
Thank you, Deborah. It sounds like some of those issues will be addressed at Triple HS in the coming months. So make sure you stay in touch with the board office and make sure you attend those meetings as well. Thank you. Okay.
Questions next?
Let's go to committee discussion. Joe, do you want to start?
Yeah, I have a question. So first, you know, in general, this is a great project. There's no question. It's been included in the affordable housing plan for a number of years. This developer came and talked to the board and briefed back and forth, and you have moved in a direction that we've asked for. So it's great to work with developers that do that, honestly, period. However, it is shocking to me, after having done multiple briefings with the board leadership, it's as if you were deaf on certain things. And that's not how we normally appreciate coming to committee after the briefings back and forth. So I want to note a few things. One is overall height we spoke about, and we asked you specifically to make sure there was a reduction of the height on the 12th Avenue project and bringing the wings of the building out. And David, I know you 142 years, and I know your design, who's wrong place? He moved, I apologize. David has done so many presentations to our board from various developers, right? So this is the design issue, but we're not talking about design so much here. We're talking about how things fit in the neighborhood that are not necessarily the design that works perfectly for your building program. So we talked specifically about a small reduction in height on the 11th Avenue, the 12th Avenue building. And then the waivers are a surprise to me. So I just want to note that it seems like the West 55th Street waiver adjacent across from sanitation, that makes sense. From the park, that, you know, it's a huge open space to the south. But no, we didn't, we said specifically we wanted a good street wall on 12th Avenue that matches the buildings along 12th Avenue. And that brings me to the issue of 11th Avenue. The board was so specific to engage that there's a problem with homeless people along this corridor, right? You are not on an island. There's a street roll requirement that we put in place in 2009 as part of the Western Rail Yards to make sure the street walls all along 11th Avenue. And build your building, build a street wall, have an entrance. It works. There's residential entrances now up and down 11th Avenue that do not have setbacks, and they're all different size buildings. You're trying to think that there was something that people may not want to come to this building or go to it. You could be building, I don't know, in Hoboken and hanging over to Manhattan, they will come anyway, right? So I think that's the response to say, we don't really appreciate having discussions back and forth to try to get it to a point where we're down to fewer items. Our goal as a community board is, by the time you come to a committee, we've churned through specific items, we get to a settlement, come to an agreement. So therefore, everyone's in favor. The other piece on design for you, David, is that we were very specific. We were not interested in seeing the Extel Riverside West glassy thing come south, right? That our district, if you can you put up that the presentation, like the axon, it shows looking to the east. And we looked at this before, and we made it clear, if you look at the context to the east, it's all masonry or stone or something happening or panel, not glass, right? So why come back to us after a discussion where we're trying to give you help and support? Just come back with a glass tower because it's a nice glass tower. That connects to Excel. It is not part of the pyramid. It is not part of the stuff on 57th Street. It's not, and it looks like an office building. And our council member shares this opinion, and she was very clear with us about it. So the special permit, HRPT, this maps the special permit, but they have to come back and do it again, just like we did with block 675. Is that correct, Robert?
So we would go through what would be the trust process when the sale was actualized. So that includes both the appraisal and then the trust action process to actualize the sale.
Right, but that means, tell me if I'm correct. No,
The special permit today would authorize.
this is the grant.
This is the grant.
This is the grant, right? And so I asked the question of the trust for a second. Do you feel comfortable that the way this is worded, that it's a minimum of 200 appraisal and everything, this protects the trust? Because we don't want to be in that position. Paul and I were at block 675 and negotiating, getting less money for the trust than.
We do. This is something that we have done on purpose. Obviously, this is a slightly different process than that when we were doing, we went right to the actualization.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly the flexibility, in the future piece brings in some elements of uncertainty for us, but that being said, we do believe the language in this right now is protective of the trust interest, and provides us the flexibility. But that's why we have multiple mapped sites, possible sites to map from.
So maybe you might want to just put that in writing to the board so we can memorialize that as part of our action. That was our big issue before.
Yeah,
The trust was
I'm
being shortchanged.
just gonna follow up on that point for a second. $200 per square foot is ridiculously below market value. And we had this fight at 675, and we fought very hard to get more money for Hudson River Park Trust. And we would probably take that same position that $200 a square foot, even at a minimum, is too low.
But it's a minimum subject to appraisal, which is good.
But like just room there, hopefully it works.
Then going back to David, the tower on 12th, that whole differentiating back and forth, it's this floating issue that we had to deal with in multiple projects, the slaughterhouse, and then we'll recently call the Site K. Site K, where architects love the idea of having some separation, and it creates this big mass that floats above the base. So we asked in that project, slaughterhouse, we asked in Site K, just to tie it down to the base. And they figured something out that worked, that got you what you wanted. So we'll probably just for reference, send you what was done there. Like we figured out how to make it work, so you get split the baby kind of thing. But let me get to the heart of it, which is the affordable housing part, right? So our affordable housing plan identified these sites quite some time ago. I first want to note that I would urge my colleagues that we're not going to vote in favor of this unless it is option 2, which is the 80% and 130, because we are desperate to get units at a higher AMI band. If you look at the affordable housing plan, the majority of our affordable housing apartments have been at 60% of AMI and 50% of AMI, with a tiny sliver at 80% and 130. Now this developed.
Can I just pause you for a second? Can you describe to committee members option 2, describe those options better so people understand what you're saying?
I've added more. So
you are talking in a way that I'm gonna snowball.
Right.
I guess I've been at so many of these meetings, I know.
Oh, yeah, no. The 30%, 60%.
Yeah, I can tell you about it. So first, let me give you the AMIs, right? Because this is this must come up at HHS every meeting, at least. So I just happen to have my HPD AMI website handy. So 60% of AMI for a single person is 68,000, up to a family of 4 of 97,000, right? 80% of AMI for a single person, maximum of 90. For a family of 4 to 129. And then for 130, now you get into the middle income portion, for a single person, 147, and for a family of 4, 210,000. I want to note that given our rents in our district today, where a 1-bedroom is $4,000 a month, and a 2-bedroom, we just recently got a notice for $6,800 for a 2-bedroom, and another notice I must fill out of $10,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. This means even families at that higher income band cannot compete in the market whatsoever. So this is the new middle income thing, when Rachel's got it on the screen, perfect.
All right, can you also describe option, the op?
Yes, I wanted to get the AMI to CS for the broader thing. So. Sorry, Paul, I should have marked it.
I thought you'd know it off the top of your head, Joe.
No, I don't have a top of it, I'm sorry.
You can,
Does that attorney want to help me at all?
anybody else on the team wanna answer what?
It's on 2 pages, I read it 3 times.
What are the different MIH options, 25, 30%?
Right.
How does that break out?
I mean, the basic difference is that option one requires 25% of the residential floor area in the building to be affordable. At a level which is an average of 60% AMI.
Right.
Option two requires that 30% of the residential floor area be affordable at an average
Average of 80%.
AMI.
Right. So we get, option 2 gets us more square footage and gets us affordable apartments at the bands that just don't get produced ever. Because the majority of developers want to use tax exempt bonds and low income housing tax credits. And those two financing mechanisms tie to say it must be 60% or below. So first of all, thank you for saying that you want to do that option, but I want to note, we need you to confirm that option. And this is our ULURP process. This is what we do. This is our public action. It's not come back and do something later, right? But you've increased the FAR above 12. Now it's not the very high density. So I want to propose something that maybe gets us somewhere in between on the numbers of affordable units. It is currently 30% of the residential FAR. I would propose to my colleagues that we ask for 30% of the total FAR, which is the 14.4, which will increase the number of units here. And because this developer is inclined to go with the 80% and the 130, he already noted it makes it more financeable because those rents are going to be higher than the 50 and 60% AMI rents. So, for example, understand that
I'm not sure if we. So our preference is for option one, which is the 25%.
I thought it was option 2.
No, their preference is option.
Okay, so
Both are in the application.
I understand.
But our.
So I'm going to say that our community preference is option 2 because we don't get that produced at all, ever. And just so you understand, those rents are rents that people in those income bands can afford. So that would mean for a studio apartment, the 2268 up to a 3-bedroom apartment of 3370. Those are not rents that don't bring money in. And for a 130 AMI unit, 3685 to a studio up to 5400 for a 3-bedroom. This brings more income into a building like this and aids the financing. And we've had these discussions with multiple developers like Gotham, for example, and they've understood to include these higher cohorts to balance out the need. So I just bring this to the committee for discussion and to put out there. I know from the housing committee end, we can talk about this over and over. We want to get these, if you want to keep these, if the woman who said, let's keep the COVID workers and the people who helped, that's what people make in those bands, especially 2-income households.
And Joe, I want to point out, you're also asking for not just 25% and 30% of the residential square footage, but the entirety of the building.
Total square footage, which is going to get us more units.
Correct.
Yeah, including commercial, right?
Doris, I see your hand. Thank you. What, and Joe, anyone?
No, that was it.
Dolores.
Okay, hi. I 100% agree with Joe. I think one of the issues is, Kevin, you brought it up, looking at individual projects, we don't keep in mind the cumulative effect. If you're thinking about your financing of, oh, let's go with the lower AMIs because we'll have more studios and smaller apartments, we're already oversaturated with those smaller apartments and those lower AMIs. Expanding it allows us to bring in families, middle and moderate income, also a lot more stability around bringing families into an area that's already growing. About the street wall, if we take a look up and down 11th Avenue, there's a consistent street wall. There's only one area that has a break. It's this funky building that's outside of our district that makes no sense. The rest of the street wall does make sense. And also in agreement with Joe, thinking about the glass. We see glass all up 11th Avenue and along the water that is a completely different neighborhood. It has no articulation at all to Hell's Kitchen. Yes, there are a few couple glass towers to the east of that area, etc. But you are actually towards the end of Hell's Kitchen. And what would make a lot of sense, particularly because there's the break with DeWitt Clinton, is to articulate to the brick that happens to be all along not only 11th Avenue, but 10th, 9th, and 8th. So just echoing, Joe, the things that you're asking for, which is again, option 2 instead of option 1, maintaining that street wall, rethinking the glass, and bringing the height down. Personally, I'd love no height because that completely blocks the view that I would have now entirely. But since it's not about me, I am extremely excited about this project because it's going to bring a lot of housing, and it's going to be also very consistent with how the rest of 11th Avenue and 12th Avenue are beginning to develop going north, bringing a brand new set of community members that I think will be positive for our overall neighborhood.
I also want to repeat that I think, the excitement of this project is really great. It's been a part of our housing plan for a long time. Having these units brought into this neighborhood is really a great opportunity. I would echo the committee members' feelings on bulk and height. We've had many conversations with the development team about this, that the design factors of the wings on the 12th Avenue building, we feel like that height could be brought down significantly by filling in those wings rather than having those wings exist. We also have asked that the height be shifted, since it's the same application for special permits and transfer of development rights, that the height be moved to 11th Avenue to avoid some of the shadow impacts and negative impacts on the Hudson River. So shorten and make the 12th Avenue building denser and lower. If what you want to pick up square footage, move it over to 11th Avenue. Have the transfer of the, because you're transferring.
They fill in some of the setbacks, that'll help make it easier.
Yeah, but you're transferring 64,000 square feet from Hudson River Park to one side, 84,000 square feet to another side. Move more of the transfer to the other side and get your height and density off of the Hudson River. So we've asked you for that in times, and I'm not happy that I haven't seen it.
If I can respond on that. So the maximum that we can transfer to either site is an amount that would increase it by 20%. It's not a lot.
We're capped at the 14.4, because that's the 20% bonus over the 12. That's the limiter. But you can still redistribute. Listen, can you put up that slide again? This thing.
The access was 12th Avenue.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Our board knows how to redistribute bulk. Look to the east there. Look at the Mercedes house. Look at the Taconic buildings. We've done all this stuff. These buildings are dense, right? They're not like 2 feet, 2 square feet. So look at this as a tower that's got to just get bulkier in portions of it. So you still get the units. We don't want to give up the units and the new housing coming in, whether it's market or affordable, but make it work more. And this is a ULURP process, a new administration, cripes are all, who knows where we're going, right? But let's try to figure it out so we can all be in sync here, because it's how many community boards does Fried Frank come to say, please rezone from an FAR of 5 to 14.4? Can I ask you to name those boards?
Anybody or any of those things?
Come on, this is what we do, so.
And I will also agree with the commentary about the street wall on 11th Avenue. I mean, not only is it an aesthetic for the avenue that we've pushed for across the board, but we specifically raised that recess areas are not conducive to a positive living environment. And so, the street wall on 11th Avenue should just stay in place.
And just to respond to that, I mean, we presented it again for conversation, with the hearing, we take community boards concerns of that.
More of a question, maybe Joe, maybe some guys answer, if your request for, the 30% of the entire square footage, the 14.4. Does the MAH formula allow for that? Or-
We can do an amendment to for the special zoning district. We can put a piece of text in the special district to do that, if it doesn't work underlying, so does it, I mean, the underlying zoning is underlying zoning, right?
The underlying zones.
But we can always modify, there can always be a piece of text in there, a piece of a text. That says, you know, except in sub area C1 and C2, it will be 20% of the total floor area. By the way, I just made that up, but I know I've done that before and it has worked.
Yeah, I don't know of an example of that in the zoning resolution that the city is trying, has set up the program so you choose the option.
No, not the no, talking about the totality. The options are the options. It says 25 or 30, or we want you to go with the 30. But then there can be a modification that lives in the district. Do this in the, we did the garment center rezoning, Paul, you know, the Brian Brothers
Yeah.
hotels. You can do it in a text and we can work that through. Not the first time we've done, you know, because it's so limited.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the garment center text, but take a look at that.
No, but I mean, that we embedded a piece of text in the special zoning district to complement the underlying rezoning happening.
Good. So while we have this slide up, I mean, I just want to echo the comments on the design of the 12th Avenue. It's much more about the massing. I understand that you have it just sort of broke it down. You have a 3-story podium along 12th Avenue. And on the south side and north side, you have 2 wings that are separate towers, one 11, one 13 stories. Those 2 towers, they feel contextual in size, but then the massing of the central tower is very awkward. And what we've created yet again is essentially a vertical suburb there. And my question is what can be done with that massing? A, to lower the height, because that's the one thing we do have on the west side is sky, and we kind of treasure it. And B, to make it so it's not just a tall, slender slab that's set back from the avenue sitting on a podium base, because it doesn't really tie into the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, you could look at the Yankee Engels Tower and comment on that, but that sort of conforms to the street grid. This tower that's kind of straddles the block does not. And so if you can do anything to make it more contextual in terms of how it adheres to our grid, I think that would be, might help mitigate some of the sort of reaction that we're having. And also, you know, I gotta just say, everyone's saying here is the height is an issue. Not so keen on making the 11th Avenue Tower taller. It does eclipse the
No, we learn we can't.
other residential. Well, that's good. It's good, but yeah, okay.
I mean, you basically have all it is a tower on a base as opposed to,
Yeah,
what did you can do to bring this a very strict, you know, there's like U-shaped basis. You're gonna be able to rent apartments here. You're gonna be able to do it. I hate to say this to you, it's really up to do it no matter what. So, and it's not gonna be $2 a square foot. So something that is much more contextual with a higher base, because we see this all over the district with a higher base. Where towers have been built. You know, like look at the Taconic building on West 43rd and 42nd Streets. Has a very high base and has, you know, there's a lot of mass there.
Yeah.
Right? So.
So Councilmember Brewer has joined us. Do you have any thoughts or comments you want to share with any of us before we?
No, but I'm meeting with the folks at the city council tomorrow, so this is helpful. And I guess also, did we talk about the Rick Clutton Park?
Yeah, I'd like to bring that up.
Yeah, we have not talked.
We have not gotten there yet.
Okay.
So,
For me, I think I would agree in terms of the glass issue, the contextual issue, and trying to think of other examples recently that would be more appropriate. I mean, we all want the people, we all want the members of the community. I know we talked about the AMIs. I will go along with what board says. The more the better. I will fight maybe a little bit more for more people to be affordable. But, you know, we've got the school issue, we've got a lot of, you know, environmental issues too, in terms of people being able to see the sky and the air and the light.
And the unit mix, which was touched on briefly, we can incorporate that in our position.
We want more
It
family
cannot be
apartments.
studios, ones, it can't be.
Family apartments, you know, the schools actually need more families in District 2 and District 3, when the migrant families left, we are way under enrolled in some cases. And DeWitt Clinton Park, I want money for DeWitt Clinton Park.
I wanted to bring that up.
JD.
I don't know if this makes sense, but help me understand here. This for $29 million is going to the Hudson River Park.
Yes.
Helps, DeWitt Clinton is right across the street. What do they get? Zilch. So I think we need to, if we can, work that out. Just doesn't make sense to me, right?
Especially,
Robert?
yeah, I just can't think about this, like, apart from the plan for the cruise terminal with the pedestrian, like, walkway coming into that park too, that's two big projects that are gonna really impact pedestrian and other traffic flow in that area and the way that park is used, and right now, it's in major need of.
Oh, that whole new walkway.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
yeah, exactly, so I feel like,
Yeah.
100%
If that money's
concur.
going to
It
Chelsea
needs some
Piers-
help.
Chelsea Piers, why is it going down?
No, it's not going to
No.
Chelsea Pier.
It's Pier 70 cents.
Just.
Sorry, that's right.
If I can chime in, so, in 2013, Hudson River Park Act was changed to allow, the trust to sell, unused development rights from some of our peers to up to 1 block inland to help fund, frankly, the construction of the park and the sort of the ongoing capital maintenance. In this instance, what we're looking to do is that we would, sell these, torrential development rights from one of the 3 sites or a combo of the sites that we had identified in this sort of at that time or that is moving forward. And then we are looking to, we've identified, what MCB4 has also identified as sort of the largest, need for in Hudson River Park, which is the future of Pier 76. Which is one of the major unused areas. And so that's where it is. And the need at Pier 76, is great, right? It is.
Wow.
Understandable.
Just
Understatement.
yeah, it is an understatement. So this would go a significant way towards helping us redo that development, which will allow to create essentially the new open space where it is in its interim status right now, it's concrete slab to create the park.
Robert, that's great. I know all that, and that's terrific and wonderful, and yes, take all the money. However, this building is going up right there, and there's DeWitt Clinton Park. I would vote against approving this unless there's some kind of money going to River Park Patrol.
We have, do we have a number from Parks Department?
Well, and we have a precedent, we should get from our budget, Parks Department requests. But also we have a precedent, and that's the Taconic building was built on West 53rd Street. And they made a contribution to the Wakefield Park.
Yeah. I mean, logically, I'm just trying to.
Do you want to comment on this at all? I mean, as it is, we are purchasing the 29.6 million, the zoning is set up and the act is set up in such a way that. The funds, they're not distributed equally to parks in the area, it is all.
We all know that, this is over and above.
Especially yours, would you be willing to make that one contribution to the Wakeland Park as was processing the law?
Your people are gonna use DeWitt Clinton Park right across the street, and yet all that money is going to Robert.
How about you just come back to us and find on that?
The nicer the park, then that adds value to the units, you know, like right now, it's not in prime condition.
Can I
Being brought back.
So the rights that are being sold, that you're buying for Priest FAR, that's.
$200.
Right, 200, which we know is gonna be more, so, but let's say right now, rounded, it's 30 million. That money's still gonna go to Hudson River Park, that's what you're paying them. I think what we're saying, or JD, I'm trying to understand, are you suggesting that absent of those purchased, that they should make a contribution?
In addition to.
Okay, so, okay, yeah.
I'm saying the whole system is for content. Harvard, you should get the money, it's a wonderful thing, understand that.
Also across the street, also across the street, across
Okay.
right.
I see Dolores's hands back up.
So just clarifying this whole thing, I mean, clearly the reason there are funds going to Hudson River Park is Hudson River Park is the reason why that this, the bonus is there, right? So this project gets to be as high as it is, gets to add as much affordable housing as it can because they're buying the air rights from those sites that were already mentioned in the presentation to these landing sites. So that money needs to go to Hudson River Park. However, whoever is going to be living in those buildings, the marketing for these buildings so that you can have a wonderful rent roll that is long lasting, they are going to be benefiting from being directly across from this gem of a park, which is actually very large. So I echo what is already being asked is that the developer considers how they can put aside additional funds to make a contribution for what will ultimately make their project successful, the existing park that is adjacent to the project.
Thanks.
If I could add one other point in response, so there is actually a process by which a contribution could be made to that, and it's through the EIS process. They study the impacts of our use of all the surrounding parks, including DeWitt Clinton Park. And the city, if there are significant adverse impacts, we have to mitigate it. You do have to pay in to pay the Parks Department. The city did not find that there would be significant impacts.
Yeah, so we can ask anyway. That's how, you've done this a few times, right?
But within coloring within the lines, I'll tell you, there was no.
So again, I appreciate that. You are responding as you are supposed to and following exactly the rules. That's not our role here. Our role here is to advocate for our community, recognizing that also the people who will eventually be living there will also be members of the community. So it's advocating for the future of our community and thinking about the success of your project. The more thoughtful that you can be, putting these upfront costs in now is actually much cheaper than if somehow we aren't able to keep up DeWitt Clinton Park and you lose rent roll because it becomes a very undesirable area. It's a small ask. And so, yes, you are not required, but it doesn't mean you can't consider, and it also doesn't mean you can't deliver.
I also want to use the phrase mitigation for effects, not mitigation for adverse.
And I just want you to know that we are very happy that these two owners have held this property for so long, that the original basis for acquisition is so low. And the economics of this, what's gonna happen with this zoning is gonna unleash so much to benefit them and the community overall. There's got to be some sort of wiggle room in here in terms of the return of these projects. And I say that with absolute quiet respect.
Respect. Kevin.
So once again, thanks for the presentation, having the dialogue back and forth with us. Obviously, year after year with CB4, in our statement of district needs, affordable housing is a top tier issue. But we just want to get it right. So I'd like to make a motion to approve this with conditions. And start to delineate.
Oh, are you sorry?
No, I'm asking if James, you got answered. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna delineate the conditions, but if I miss something, please everybody chime in.
Okay.
In no particular order. The street wall on 11th Avenue, that the facade be consistent with the surrounding area in Hell's Kitchen, for example, brick. That we go ahead with option 2, so we can get maximum value for affordable housing and with AMI. That we have more family apartments, be flushed out. And that we get money for DeWitt Clinton Park.
I think the only thing missed, I'm gonna second, but the only thing missed is that it's 30% of the total.
Total if they are.
Total if they are. No, there was not just residential if they
A
are.
whole conversation about massing and height on 12th Avenue.
Right, I was gonna say,
And materials.
we talk about the non-glassy use on 12th, changing the massing and creating a bigger base on 12th Avenue. We want to also note they agreed to 32BJ. That's a great thing to put in there because that's something done.
Actually, just to clarify that, so you would recognize union and enter into the residential collective bargaining agreement?
An agreement has been signed with 32BJ.
Has been signed.
Hasn't.
To recognize the union.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, but just to amplify money, I would like us to come up with a better formula than just money. Because that could be.
I would say it's a contribution based upon Parks Department needs that we have to get further research on before our meeting that happens. We also want to limit the funds paid to HRPT to the Hell's Kitchen portion of the park. And
Right, including here 76.
so of course,
That's Hell's Kitchen portion.
Hell's Kitchen portion. And maybe put that in your letter. What's that'd be great. The floating tower thing, that's about the bulk. And then just to note that to effectuate this change of the 30% of the total floor area as opposed to residential, that we asked them to look at a text amendment to special zoning districts in areas C1 and C2 to allow a slight increase for that. And
Okay, I
do it
still
as-
second.
As an A text. Yeah.
Before you second, oh, no, second's okay, second, discussion on the motion then. Sorry, Robert, are you okay with this? I want to make sure that we understand the terminology and agreement between HRPT and the developer, that it's a minimum and that it's gonna be based on appraisal. I'd like to have that be part of our.
We can include.
We have a letter from them, but I think we could go further, right?
I can include, we can include something about the process, our process and our.
Because we have often fought for higher TDR pricing, and I just don't want us to be in a position where, oh, well, they accepted 200 on this site, we can accept 200 in the future. So I just want to make sure.
Mandated in this process.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure that we do this, it's inclusive of that. All right, so there's a motion seconded for approval with conditions. Anybody need me to repeat the conditions? No, good, thank you.
Watch the recording.
Watch the recording.
Yeah, watch the recording if you want. So because the ULURP, I'm gonna do a roll call vote, all right? So Ted,
Yay.
Kevin,
Yay.
Aaron,
Yay.
Frank,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yay.
James,
Yes.
Sanford,
Yes.
JD,
Okay.
Gerald,
Yeah.
Dolores,
Yes,
Brian? Sure. I mean, yes.
Paul also votes yes for unanimous agreement, so we will approve with those conditions. Hopefully we can get maybe some commitment letters from you that will help ensure that this process works. We are not done, folks.
So we should note though, we probably would like to schedule a meeting with the board leadership on this matter, so we can talk to you in detail about it. Before, we normally draft a commitment letter, go back and forth prior to coming. Our exec committee is when?
Well, full board is February 4th.
Right, but the exec committee, hopefully we don't be.
Sorry about that. I thought we were gonna have a post meeting like at the end of this week or early next.
Yeah,
week.
no, but to give them an idea of what our timeline is.
Oh,
We meet with them, but then our exec committee is.
Our design committee is on January 26th on Monday.
It'd be great to have as much as sewn up by that date, as it at least to go further, you know, yeah, that's what I was trying to get out.
We will follow you on that further.
Thank you. But before we wrap up, there is this draft EIS and we have our scope. So in our scope, we ask for certain things to be studied. I'd like some assistance in making sure that the requests from the scope correlated to the draft EIS. If there are shortages or shortfalls, I want to make sure that we address those in the letter. And it just is the dense project of everybody just taking pieces and going through it. So can I ask for some help to take a look at the scope, go to the chapter and then draft EIS, do the comparison and point out the differences. And I'm gonna go through the scope in order so that I can write notes of who's doing what. Land use and zoning public policy, Joe, we kind of new in your team for that. Thank you. Socioeconomic issues and conditions.
I'll do.
James, thank you. Cool. Community facilities and services.
That includes schools.
That's
and-
schools and mostly schools commentary in here.
Sure.
Erin?
What I need to do.
Yeah, okay, and you might want to check with Josephine.
Yeah, of
for
course.
views on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Aaron, and we'll help,
Yeah,
you're not floating alone. Open space issues, we had, the impact on, basically on the parks. Sounds like JD.
I think I wrote that letter.
JD, you're doing open space, thank you, appreciate that. Shadows.
I'll do the shadows because of the framework.
Yeah.
Shadows, Joe, thank you. Urban design and visual resources. Brian, you did that one before.
Yeah, no, Hudson Yards.
Yeah, you want to take this one?
Sure.
It's just, hazardous materials is Kevin.
You're so excited.
Water and sewer infrastructure, I think I've asked Marty for some input on that, we'll Marty Cap. Because that's always his issue, transportation.
I can do that.
Thank you, Sanford. And I spoke to Christine and she's happy to work with you on that stuff, air quality. Air quality,
I'll do that one.
thank you, Ted. Greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. Greenhouse mine. Thanks, Ted. Greenhouse gas emissions, noise. Noise is mostly about the mechanical equipment, construction issues.
I think I did that one also.
James, terrific, thank you. Public health, Kevin, thank you. Construction, said.
Yeah. I just-
Wait, neighborhood parks, neighborhood park? That's a chapter in the,
I'm just looking at what's in this scope.
but we want to review it anyway.
Are you gonna have a cab? Are you gonna do a cab?
Of what?
No, I don't.
For construction cab?
Construction task force. Construction task force with Jesse. Yes, we have to have one of those in our letter. And we always keep in the big project.
There are people who live nearby. so-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So they would appreciate a cab,
There's a lot of people across the street.
yeah, so they would appreciate a cab. We can help.
You keep saying that, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna admit my ignorance, cap, what is that?
Construction advisory.
Construction advice
Yeah,
board, thank you.
in our board, we call them construction task force.
Task force, yeah.
Because we have CABs, which is a.
We have
community
CABs,
advisory
okay.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We're talking about, yeah.
That's set up. Yeah.
Yes, that should be in our list.
So who wants to, did you say construction? Thanks.
No.
And then any of the missing pieces, Rachel.
Wait, well, I want to see if there are volunteers for them though.
Which is.
Okay, if any of these sound appealing, let us know. So that's neighborhood character. Effects on disadvantaged communities. Mitigation. Project permutations, alternatives, unavoidable significant adverse impacts. Growth inducing aspects of proposed project, irreversible, irretrievable commitments of resources.
I'm gonna volunteer Maria Ortiz for the disadvantaged communities.
Oh,
Can you, Joe, take a look at the alternatives and options for alternatives? Thanks.
anyone else?
So, January 26th is the executive committee meeting, and we've just told the applicant that we would like to have commentary from them by the 26th, so it'd be helpful if we had commentary by the 26th. That basically gives us 2 weekends. If we think about.
Commitments from them, really, it's commitments, not commentary.
No, but we're planning to have follow-up meetings with the applicant.
Right.
And have commitments and language done by the 26th from their side. So it'd be great if we also had our commentary. Yeah, from each of you. And to be honest, to me and Rachel, to maybe let's shoot for Friday, the 23rd. So that we can spend our weekend working on it. Very good. Thank you all very much.
One question on transportation, my understanding from the development, to their credit, that they're not doing a shuttle bus with my seat.
Yes, it was discussed and we raised your point that you hate them.
Yes.
Buses, like
All right.
shuttles.
So we'll send out reminders for what your commitments were. The scope is in Dropbox, so you can start from this, take your section, go with the chapter of the draft. Each chapter is in Dropbox by chapter. Just go through and compare, contrast, and make note of what's missing. Or what they ignored us on or whatnot, so take it from there. Anybody else have? Before and Dolores, I see you itching to raise your hand, but I'm not gonna call on you yet. I just wanna call out if there's anybody who wants to raise a new business issue. Yes, there was somebody, they're not here, perfect. And Janine, nobody's raising their hand on the attendees side, right? For a new business,
No, there's no hair.
great, okay.
So Paul, I
So
was only
I-
fixing my hair, but I can make a motion to adjourn.
The chair the chair recognizes Dolores Rubin.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor, any opposed, abstained? Okay, very good, thank you.
All right, have a good night, everyone.